a millionaire YouTuber, luxury cars, millions of fans. His best friend, the most feared hitman for the Sinaloa cartel. But Markitos Toys did the unthinkable. He didn't just befriend them, he turned the narco lifestyle into a multi-million-dollar social media business, breaking a sacred code of silence. The response was war. They put him on a blacklist, they burned down his businesses, and they murdered his brother. This is the story of how internet fame came face to face with lead, and how a single click can put you in a cartel's crosshairs. To understand the fall, one must first understand the rise. Marcos Eduardo Castro Cardenas, born in Culiacan in 1998, was not just any influencer. He launched his YouTube channel in 2019 with a simple but powerful formula, showing his personal life. But his life was not like others. It was a parade of high-end cars, expensive modifications, street races, parties, and trips. Together with his team, known as Lost Toys, he created a brand that sold more than entertainment. It sold a lifestyle. His popularity was meteoric. He amassed millions of followers on YouTube and Instagram, launched merchandise lines like limited edition caps that sold out in hours, and became a phenomenon, especially among the youth of his state. To the public, he projected an image of generosity, donating money to garbage collectors or supporting the pediatric hospital in Culiacan. He was the neighborhood kid who had made it, the friend everyone wanted to hang out with. But beneath the surface, there was a more complex and dangerous truth. Markitos didn't just become famous in Sinaloa. He became famous because of Sinaloa. In a region where narco culture has permeated society for decades, power, money, and respect are often associated with figures of organized crime. Drug traffickers are, for some, folk heroes, role models. Markitos himself confessed it in his biographical Corrido. As a child, he wanted to be a narco. Why? Because in his world, they were the ones who had the big car, the big truck, the cool guy, the respected one. Without knowing it, or perhaps knowing it all too well, his content offered a sanitized and legal version of that same dream. He showed the luxury and power of the narco lifestyle, but seemingly without the risk. He became the embodiment of a local fantasy, to achieve the status of a capo, but through likes and subscriptions. He was the king of a new kind of Culiacan, a digital one. But the rules of the old Culiacan, those of the street and of lead, would soon come to claim their due. The veil separating his two worlds was definitively torn on November 22, 2023. That day, Mexican federal forces captured Nestor Isidro Perez Solis, alias El Nini, in Culiacan. He was no ordinary criminal. El Nini was the feared and bloodthirsty head of security for Los Chapitos, the faction of the Sinaloa cartel led by the sons of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. He was a man implicated in massacres, in the infamous Culiacanazo, and for whom the United States offered a $3 million reward. While the authorities celebrated the capture, Markitos Toys uploaded a series of stories to his Instagram that left everyone frozen. With tears in his eyes, visibly affected, he defended his relationship with the hitman. His words were a public confession and a challenge. I only had a friendship with my friend, and a friendship is worth more than anything, he said through sobs. We were friends. I was not his employee, nor was he mine. You don't decide what a friend does for a living. Friendship is very independent of anything. He ended with a declaration of loyalty that would seal his fate. If it's a crime, that I was his friend, well, I'll pay for it. It doesn't matter. He was a great friend of mine, he still is. In the unwritten code of drug trafficking, in the midst of a brutal internal war between the Los Chapitos faction and that of Ismael Elmayo Zomboda, known as La Maiza, this act was a catastrophe. It was not seen as the defense of a friend, but as a declaration of loyalty to a side, Markitos, the influencer, had just transformed into a public symbol of Los Chapitos. He ceased to be a spectator and became a combatant in the eyes of the enemy. His loyalty did not go unnoticed. Months later, for El Nini's birthday, already imprisoned in the United States, Markitos published a photo of a cake with a message, "A hug to wherever you are. We miss you, old man." Friendship, as he said, was above all else, and he was about to pay the price. On March 28, 2025, the violence reached the Castro family in the most brutal way. Gail Castro, Markitos' brother, was in Ensenada, Baja California, more than 1,500 kilometers from the war zone in Sinaloa. He was on vacation with his wife, eating at a restaurant called Villa Marina. Like his brother, Gail was also an influencer who showed a life of luxury, and his name was on the flyers that fell from the sky in Culiacán. In broad daylight, armed hitmen approached the entrance of the restaurant and opened fire. Gail was shot at least 5 times at point-blank range in the face, arm, and stomach. He died instantly, lying on the threshold of the establishment. The murder in Ensenada was a masterstroke of terror. It showed that the war had no borders. Fleeing Culiacán did not guarantee safety. The hand of the cartel's enemies was long and could reach any corner of the country. It was the final and definitive message for Markitos, and for anyone on that list: you can't hide. There is no escape. Baja California authorities confirmed that Gail had already been threatened, and that a person was arrested as a suspect in less than 12 hours. But the damage was already done. The bloodline had been crossed. The YouTube king was now in exile, his crown stained with blood. After his brother's murder, Markitos was seen in Holly School, surrounded by a strong security team. He broke his silence. A month later, not to claim revenge, but to surrender. He called his brother's death a great injustice, and said he would leave the case in God's hands. It was a clear signal. There would be no retaliation or collaboration with justice. Today, Markitos Toys lives trapped in a deadly paradox. On the one hand, to maintain his brand and his income, he publicly denies any link to crime. He insists that his fortune comes from his work as a content creator and from legitimate businesses. On the other hand, to survive in the real world of Sinaloa, he must show respect for its codes. He has gone so far as to say, referring to narco money, "Why do we play dumb? We know that's how the money moved in the city. Now don't complain, you have to endure it." These contradictory statements are not a sign of confusion. They are the reflection of a man walking a tightrope between two irreconcilable realities: the virtual world that gave him fame and the fatal world that took his brother from him. The story of Markitos Toys is a dark fable for the digital age. It demonstrates the limits of online influence when faced with real-world violence. His fame made him visible, his loyalty made him a target, and his world, built on the fantasy of power, collapsed under the weight of bullets. He's still rich, he's still famous, but he lives like a fugitive, with a shattered family and an invisible threat that will follow him wherever he goes. The final question is not whether he is guilty or innocent. It is whether, in his world, there was ever a possibility of being neither.
El 28 de marzo de 2025, la violencia alcanzó a la familia Castro de la forma más brutal. Gail Castro, hermano de Markitos, se encontraba en Ensenada, Baja California, a más de 1.500 kilómetros de la zona de guerra en Sinaloa. Estaba de vacaciones con su esposa, comiendo en un restaurante llamado Villa Marina. Como su hermano, Gail también era un influencer que mostraba una vida de lujos y su nombre estaba en los volantes que cayeron del cielo en Culiacán. A plena luz del día, sicarios armados se acercaron a la entrada del restaurante y abrieron fuego. Gail recibió al menos 5 disparos a quemarropa en el rostro, el brazo y el estómago. Murió en el acto, tendido en el umbral del establecimiento. El asesinato en Ensenada fue un golpe maestro de terror. Demostró que la guerra no tenía fronteras. Huir de Culiacán no garantizaba la seguridad. La mano de los enemigos del cártel era larga y podía llegar a cualquier rincón del país. Era el mensaje final y definitivo para Markitos y para cualquiera en esa lista. No pueden esconderse. No hay escape. Las autoridades de Baja California confirmaron que Gale ya había sido amenazado y que una persona fue detenida como presunta responsable en menos de 12 horas. Pero el daño ya estaba hecho. La línea de sangre se había cruzado. El rey de YouTube estaba ahora en el exilio, su corona manchada de sangre. Tras el asesinato de su hermano, Markitos fue visto en Jalisco, rodeado por un fuerte equipo de seguridad. Rompió su silencio un mes después, no para clamar venganza, sino para rendirse. Calificó la muerte de su hermano como una gran injusticia y dijo que dejaría el caso en manos de Dios. Era una señal clara. No habría represalias ni colaboración con la justicia. Hoy, Markitos Toys vive atrapado en una paradoja mortal. Por un lado, para mantener su marca y sus ingresos, niega públicamente cualquier vínculo con el crimen. Insiste en que su fortuna proviene de su trabajo como creador de contenido y de negocios legítimos. Por otro lado, para sobrevivir en el mundo real de Sinaloa, debe mostrar respeto por sus códigos. Ha llegado a decir, refiriéndose al dinero del narco, ¿para qué nos hacemos pendejos? Sabemos que de eso es como se movió el billete en la ciudad. Ahora no se quejen, hay que aguantar. Estas declaraciones contradictorias no son un signo de confusión. Son el reflejo de un hombre que camina sobre una cuerda floja entre dos realidades irreconciliables. El mundo virtual, que le dio la fama, y el mundo fatal, que le arrebató a su hermano. La historia de Markitos Toys es una fábula oscura para la era digital. Demuestra los límites de la influencia online cuando se enfrenta a la violencia del mundo real. Su fama lo hizo visible. Su lealtad lo hizo un objetivo, y su mundo, construido sobre la fantasía del poder, se derrumbó bajo el peso de las balas. Sigue siendo rico, sigue siendo famoso, pero vive como un fugitivo, con una familia destrozada y una amenaza invisible que lo seguirá a donde vaya. La pregunta final no es si es culpable o inocente, es si en su mundo alguna vez existió la posibilidad de no ser ninguna de las dos cosas.